Assalamu alaikum. I would also like to welcome our honorable guests and esteemed participants who are here today. Thank you for taking out the time. And especially I would like to welcome the panel. Sana has introduced them, but welcome Ali, Ehsan, and Hassan. Thank you for joining me in having this very critical conversation on how smartphones play a role of an enabler for the creative economy. Now, when we talk about the creative economy, an analogy that I would use is that it's like an open mic night, and anyone can get up on the stage and create content. What creative economy has done in the past decade is that it has democratized creativity. And in doing so, it has created a huge economic influence. And I don't say that lightly, because the projection is that there will be a creative economy will be a 2.2 trillion industry by 2029, which would be bigger than the movie industry, bigger than the movie industry by that time. And how is the creative economy enabled? It is enabled through smartphones. Now we've had elaborate conversations throughout the day on where we stand on teledensity and also the use of internet. Out of a 241 million population, around 189 million are actually online, and 50% of them are your 4G users. The rest are 3G and 2G users. And we're already talking about moving to 5G. But affordability is a big concern, as we've discussed throughout the day. Smartphones are not accessible to a large population because they cannot afford it. So when we talk about the digital divide, I would like to start with you, Ali. When we talk about the digital divide, how do we enable people so that they get a smartphone in their hands, so that people who are putting out entertainment, such as Hassan, by virtue of Tamasha, people can access this entertainment? How do we make that possible? Your mic is probably off.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that question, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much.
When you talk about smartphone as an enabler, I think you're absolutely right. When we look at some of the things that we've been talking about and hearing today, a basic ingredient for that is data as well as smartphone, which is enabled through the smartphone. However, when you talk about the reasons why the penetration is so low, so I'm going to start talking about, I'll start with that first, and then I'll come to how we can facilitate that. So affordability, yes, you're absolutely right, is a challenge. But affordability also depends on how essential do you feel something is for you in your life, and what role it is going to play. So we've done a lot of rural data education programs. And one of my learnings there was that people who have not adopted to smartphones as yet, in a lot of their minds, they just see it as a method or a means for entertainment. Social media being, in their view, the single largest use case, or access to its single largest use case for them, right? However, when we get into a conversation with them, I'm talking both, and this is kind of linked with digital inclusion as well. And I'm not just talking about, the men over there, but women. When we kind of bring people who have, from their setup, who have actually achieved, they use it for kind of creating new income streams and projecting the world, learning new tools and techniques. Suddenly, I've seen the perspective change. So in terms of, let's say, if you have a limited resource pool, where you place the smartphone, I've actually seen that change in terms of its priority. So yes, affordability is a challenge. However, with a change in terms of how you can effectively use it to enhance your income, to enhance your own livelihood and lifestyle, it does kind of it suddenly becomes more important for them. The other aspect is, how do we make it more accessible? So at Jazz, this has been a long-standing, let's say, drive, an area of focus to put a smartphone in everyone's hand. So at various times, the last 7 to 8 years, we have run multiple programs of coming up with cost-effective, smart/semi-smart handsets, which are more affordable We have run multiple installment programs. The most notable one was with Digit. Abdurrahman here was talking about it. So we sold more than a million handsets in a period of 2 years. Yes, there were certain challenges when it comes to recovering. How do we charge the installments, the frequency of them? How do we, block those handsets? And it's very heartening to see that when we heard the minister talk about it, that there are conversations going on in the government circles of enabling, handset blocking at the DERBS level. There are conversations, we are committed to a program where all operators come together and make sure that a smartphone which has pending installments, we collectively decide not to kind of enable it on our net, just to encourage the right behavior in users so that it becomes worth our while to have sustainable programs. One-offs, usually, people start and then they become reference points of not doing the right thing in the future as well. So I think we are at a stage when there is realization of that importance. So creating that awareness and also making sure there is a collective initiative supported by the policymakers, I think we can really work towards increasing that.
Right. Thank you, Ali. I particularly like the point that you raised that yes, smartphone is an investment, but there's a return on investment by virtue of creative economies. And also, I think the mobile operators or the digital operators at this point are doing more than is required of them by making these devices accessible to people who cannot afford it right now. So kudos to you. And also, since collectively both Jazz and Telenor represent around 61-62% of the current market share, SN, I would like to request you to please also shed light on the same point. How is Telenor focusing? What initiatives is it taking to bridge the digital divide so that more people can have access to smartphones and they can also thereby, sitting from their home, earn money?
Yeah, thank you, Nayab. So it's very admirable what Jazz has done on the Digit side, and I know that there are lots of challenges that exist in the macroeconomics framework over here in terms of policy framework. At Telenor, our belief is that we as an operator are better placed focusing on addressing the digital divide through connectivity, and thereby focusing on the three aspects of mobile connectivity that we can actually influence and address much more effectively. The first one is making sure that there is accessibility and coverage of 4G pretty much everywhere. The second one is on the distribution, which is accessibility, that anybody, no matter where they are in the country, can easily access data, 4G data. And the third part is affordability. On the devices front, for the time being, our focus is that the secondary market will have to address this, because the market at the moment has anomalies, because of which it is very hard to give installment-based devices, because we don't have a formal structure in place at the moment where credit rating systems can actually blacklist subscribers who are actually not staying for the duration of the contract. So for us, our focus is at the moment focusing on the service provision, and from that angle, starting off with network coverage, I think collectively as an industry, 98% of all cell phone towers are 4G at the moment across all the 4 operators that we have. And I think the telco industry has actually made sure that there is adequate coverage, and everybody pretty much, except for some of the very remote areas, are adequately catered through through coverage. The second point is around accessibility. And I think one of the strong suits of the mobile operators in Pakistan is the fact that we have, I would say, collectively about 250,000 unique retailers. So we have the largest retail network combined in the country, where every street has some mobile package seller, where anybody can actually easily go and buy a product. So it is very easy to purchase a mobile data connection. And then the third part is around the affordability angle, where all operators, I'd say, Telenor specifically has a lot of focus on this to ensure that we are giving enough value to the consumer, where the product is affordable. we already have, very low price points, and I think there's no disagreement around that. If we look at the global benchmarks, we have, probably the most affordable data in the world at the moment. I could say we could be the second last, or one, but close to one of the most affordable data offerings in the world at the moment. And how that has been brought about is through efficiency. As operators, we have ensured that we are extremely efficient, cutting out all inefficiencies in the value chain, cutting out third-party intermediary players, and then also making sure that there's very little overhead. As a consequence of that, we are able to efficiently provide services and ensure that there is more affordability of the product out there. And then at the same time, there's so many different SKUs, or so many different variants. There's something for everybody in terms of, if you're a monthly user or a weekly user, or you're looking for only a Facebook-only bundle, or a TikTok-only bundle, or a WhatsApp-only bundle. So we've made sure that there's affordability. So our focus, just to wrap up, is making sure that we are making the connectivity part as seamless as possible and as affordable as possible for the population of this country.
Thank you, Essen. Thank you for touching on the infrastructure part of it and how that enables affordability, and also efficiencies play an important role in doing that. Now I will move on to the person behind the Netflix of Pakistan, Tamasha. Hassan, you have been successfully running Tamasha for some time now. And if I were to ask you that, is it a pull phenomena or is it a push phenomena? So is it technological advancements that are governing OTT platforms and their penetration in Pakistan, or is it consumer preferences that are demanding that we put these particular services out there?
Okay, so it'll be a combination of both to answer your questions. Yes, there are technological advancements that are drivers for this, but then there are things that Ali and Essen have also talked about. Wide availability of high-speed internet. Smartphone devices and adoption of smartphone devices in Pakistan. That's a driver, that's a challenge also, right? Now from a consumer preferences perspective, consumers demand content on the go, and they want personalized content. Gone are the days when you sit in front of the TV and wait for the 8 p.m. show that you wanted. Now you want it at your convenience, wherever you are ready to consume it. The underlying thing is that we see that consumers have multiple opportunities for an OTT app in their phones. What does that mean? That means there are multiple OTTs that can coexist on a smartphone at the same time. If you want user-generated content or professionally generated content, YouTube is the platform. Their business model is different. You don't have to pay a subscription for that. It's an AVOD model, advertising video on demand. If you want shorts, reels, you'd go on TikTok. If you want long format content, long format shows that we generally refer them to, you've got Netflix there. What we as Tamasha are trying to do in this case is build the digital cable of Pakistan. We all had cables in our homes when IPTV was not prevalent, even in the metropolitan cities of Pakistan. We all referred to cable television as the go-to place for our recreation or entertainment needs as far as television was concerned. So we want to be the digital cable of Pakistan. And for that, what we're trying to do right now is offer linear TV, offer live sports, offer VOD, cricket, Australian Open, you name it. And right now, if you go, you would feel that there is something of relevance for you on the platform.
Okay, great. So, Hassan, if I were to extend this question a little bit, you have great offerings that you're putting out there, but I'm sure other than internet availability, there are other challenges that come also in terms of OTT global platforms as well as Pakistani platforms. How do your challenges differ from the global OTT space?
Okay, globally the smartphone adoption is a lot more higher.
Yes.
If I look on the western side of the world, Even on eastern side also, we see that the smartphone adoption is higher for other countries compared to Pakistan. So yes, that's one thing that's a challenge for us. What are other challenges in Pakistan? Parity for all. You must have heard the term called internet for all. Then there is 4G for all. Now we want parity for all in this content space. What does parity for all actually mean? You should have the same legislations, you should have the same governance, rules, policies, etc. for every OTT. If there's an OTT that's based out of Mountain View and can operate in Pakistan without any legal hindrances on what kind of content it's showcasing, whereas there's another local OTT player such as Tamasha, which is over here, and we have to be governed by the local PEMRA rules, that's a bit unfair. From a business model perspective also, we have seen the rise of surrogate betting brands in the last 2 odd years. Why I'm referring to those betting brands is because we all saw last 1 year back, there was a cricket tournament that's the most popular league in our country. It was dominated. You know, all the players had surrogates on their t-shirts. Where did all those companies go? They still exist for some OTTs, which means their business model is still going to be easier to justify because they get ample amount of revenue from there. So if I was to bid for a certain content at a price and the bid is $100, this guy who has a surrogate advantage over me can go and put 120, right? So it's not fairness, it's not parity. So these are some of the challenges that I think which needs to be addressed. There's one more thing that I'd like to call on is there's a term called healthy entertainment. It is extremely important for countries like Pakistan to focus on healthy entertainment, and because this averts extremism also, right? It is not part of UN SDGs as of today, but I hope in coming days, healthy entertainment becomes a UN SDG whereby the consumption of healthy content can form a positive narrative. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Hassan. Actually, interestingly, just in 2021, UN General Assembly declared that 2021 was going to be the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. So it's possible that what you suggested is not that far. Ali and S, and I will pose my next question to you. If we, as Hassan also specified, that this is a very fast evolving space, right? And the challenges are similarly also evolving as we go. If we look at the world before October 7th, let's just say, we did not know who Motaz or Palestia or Bisan were, right? And then soon enough, we were turning to these influencers or content creators for consumption of news in comparison to the CNNs or the BBCs of the world, which shows that the creative... We see many different influencers emerging in different spaces. Shay Gill, a singer who started from Instagram and then made it big internationally as well. And then Arshad Reels, to quote a new one that is surfacing right now. There are many influencers that are up and coming. How does that influence your marketing strategy as digital players in the country? And in order to connect with people at the grassroots as well as the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, how has your marketing spend or marketing budget spend or allocation changed over a period of time to accommodate for these content creators and influencers that are coming up?
So, I think the shift is massive, and so if I reflect on the last 5 years, so it has not just been one move. We've kind of shifted at least 3 to 4 times. 5 years ago, bulk of the our spend was going towards linear TV, and then came okay, whatever you're doing on TV, move it to the digital platforms, almost a replica of what you were doing on TV. Then came the awareness that the same kind of content does not work on digital mediums as would be effective on linear TV. Then came that customization. And when we were looking at the budgets, so the shift was from maybe 5% of the budget going to digital to right now, as Jazz, we are not only a telecom company. We evolved, and we our vision is to become a DO 1440 operator, which means being with you, a digital operator that is with you 14-40 minutes of the day. So our businesses have kind of evolved into more digital businesses, whether it be Jazz Cash, whether it be Tamasha, and multiple other Bajao, our music app, and multiple others. So when we kind of want to create awareness for these digital businesses of ours, so the digital mediums are definitely more relevant. So we've seen more than 50% of our budget going towards digital mediums now. Now the most recent evolution is that the traditional advertising on digital is also outdated. What we've seen kind of working more effectively for us is to having co-created content with what you call these content creators and influencers, right? So as we speak right now, we have realized that and that's something that you can't do in isolation, right? You can't pick people who have their presence on social media and just kind of randomly use them for a message that you want to communicate. They are when we talk about using them, they are the brand, and you kind of work with them, and it is their let's just say endorsement which effectively works for us. So, and I'm very happy that as this space is evolving, we've seen specific organizations who have kind of created this thing as from individual people doing their bit to organizing this sector. And we see companies like Wali, Influenso, who have channelized these influencers in terms of by virtue of the category of their expertise, their subject of interest, and how that is relevant to different brands. So I see more sophistication coming in that area. And while we are at it, it is very important that some of the good people who are in that space, we give them an opportunity, or we provide them the hand-holding which is required. We've got a lot of talent is lost because they don't know the paths to take. So we have initiated this program, this is about end 2022 when we started it, which is called Digital Kamai Program, where we use people from within the community to on our platform to make sure that they are able to provide that initial hand-holding and support to new upcomers and aspirants to make sure that they kind of are able to harness their potential at an earlier stage, and we don't lose people who are disheartened by not getting that early success which which they otherwise could if they get proper guidance. So I believe this space is just starting to become from a something that you just experiment with to massively mainstream, and I think that's just going to change entirely the way we as brands advertise, and also the breadth of entities and businesses that advertise on digital mediums.
Yeah, so there have been two trends at play, and I think Ali's already talked about it. So one was we had people spending more and more time on digital media, and that was an opportunity that was created for us, that historically where the bulk of the marketing dollars used to go on TV and electronic media, they started finding their way to digital media because we were trying to expose our ads or our message to the digital audience over there. But historically what we used to do is that we used to have the same kind of format for advertising on digital that we used to have for TV. The same kind of people, the same kind of the stars were even the same. You just used to accommodate or adapt it a little bit for the digital medium. But over the last few years, what we have seen explode on social media, especially with the advent of the TikToks and the Instagrams and all, is this digital stars that you call influencers. And then the interesting thing about is that there are lots. So it's a much more democratized stardom now on digital as opposed to electronic media. People from all sorts of areas, different backgrounds are becoming digital stars now. But the interesting thing is that they are taken more seriously by the digital audience. And in one experiment that we ran, not so long ago, is that we had a TV star who had a social following to some extent, and then we had her post our message, Telenor's message or advertisement in some form on social media, and then we had an average digital influencer posted, and we had 5 times more engagement on digital for the influencers posting, even though the cost as an advertiser of that influencer was a lot lower. Yes. So the trick that these influencers have done, or the digital stars have done, is that they have customized their audience to get engagement out of digital, out of that platform, which is why they're so successful. And that is what we as advertisers are now trying to leverage on, because historically what we used to do is we had a one-size, creative process, and then that was kind of, spread over digital as well. It found its way on digital. But we have to change the way we are thinking and we are approaching. And then, like Ali mentioned on co-creation, that's a very important concept. Because if you want to get a message across, the advertiser's, main objective is to get receptiveness to the message. And that receptiveness will only come if there's authenticity behind it. And if they feel that this is just, a paid advertisement, it's not coming organically out of that content, the message effectiveness is going to get diluted a lot. So co-creation becomes extremely important. And these digital influencers, these natives, are actually much more effective in getting the message across, creating engagement for our advertisement, for our product, than the traditional stars are. And that's really a completely different area now for our marketing teams, because they are not used to working like this. So they have to reinvent and they have to relearn as well. So it's a very interesting area, but with a lot of potential and opportunity going forward.
No doubt. I believe in the traditional way that we used to segment our consumers or viewers has completely changed. Now the segmentation is based on the person that is influencing their audience, and that is where we have to, at a very, very micro level, change our strategy and co-create products. I love that word, because this is something that we are also experimenting with in the Digital Pakistan, if I may chime in. The observation is that the Gen Zers are not really interested in news. So how do we get them to come towards consuming tech news? We ask people from their own generation to create that news. So Digital Pakistan is a platform that we're running where user-generated content is used across different social media platforms, and the idea is to pull this generation towards news consumption as well, and create a positive discourse around tech, which influences, of course, the generation and people who are creating policies for them. So co-creation is one way to go, but I believe that is not a phenomena that is relevant to your area, Hassan. I understand that sports is really, really big for Tamasha, but other than that, because since co-creation is not really something which is relevant to your platform, but how does that impact the fact that this is a phenomena which exists in the market? How does that impact your content strategy for Tamasha? For instance, in terms of Netflix and other major OTT players, what are the learnings globally, and how are you translating them to Tamasha in Pakistan?
Okay, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, all of these use cases have a large global presence, which gives them the leverage or economies of scale to produce a lot of original content. And that is the reason for their success also. Having said that, I'll give you a perspective from a global side, and then I'll tell you what's happening in the development market. Having said that, Netflix has 75 million users in the US and Canada, has 80 million users across Europe. How many users in India? 7 million. How many users in Pakistan? Less than 1 million. So these are countries with big population, yet the numbers or the adoption of Netflix over here is not like it is in the West, right?
Is it because it's an intimidating idea to subscribe to? Because I understand that when Netflix was launched in Pakistan, the credit card penetration was a big issue, a challenge that was in the way for that. But other than that, is that one of the reasons still? Because I believe telecom companies did evolve solutions, offer solutions around that.
Yes, yes and no. So why yes? Yes, because yes, the affordability for Netflix subscription is low here compared to what it is over there. But now Google has come up with price parity for Pakistani market, which means you don't have to pay the Netflix charge that you pay in New York. You don't have to pay the same charge over here. You pay much less. So they've also adhered to the situation, yet the adoption is not that high. Now, there could be multiple reasons. I don't work at Netflix, so I cannot comment much. But there could be multiple reasons for this. One, yes, the price point of a subscription, or it's the intimidation to sign up for a subscription. B, what about the content, right? Is there enough diverse or the local content that you're going or looking for? Is it serving your need? I'll give you an example of what is the type of content that cuts across the world globally, right? And that has worked in Pakistan also. For the million users that we have on Netflix in Pakistan, they also like that content. Have you heard about this show called Squid Games?
I have heard about it, have not.
So Squid Games produced 1.65 billion hours of watch time in the first 28 days of its launch. Right? What does that mean? That means almost quarter of a global population at least watched it for an hour. Although they don't have quarter of a billion subscribers, but I'm just putting it into perspective that this is the amount of pull that show created. It was not in English. The show was dubbed in English. For Pakistan, it was dubbed in English, right? For other markets, it was dubbed in their regional languages, in French, in Spanish, or whatever. So the genres that people demand for cut across. They're action, thriller, comedy, drama, horror. Those categories remain the same. But there has to be a certain level of local responsiveness besides being globally integrated companies, right? And Tamasha, I'm referring back to Tamasha because we're trying to find a product market fit for that. And I think we've cracked it a bit now. It provides you linear TV, which is 75 plus live TV channels. VOD, more than 1,000 hours of VOD content. Live sports, you name any cricket tournament that has happened in the past 2 years has been aired on Tamasha. Other than the recent Pakistan-New Zealand series, there's not even been a single cricket match where Pakistan team was playing and Tamasha was not able to air it. Right? That's hero content for us. And I mean, yes, that drives a lot of traffic. 26 million people every month do not come on Tamasha to watch this linear TV. They have televisions at home, but during peak cricket season, this is the amount of reach that Tamasha brings to the table. So yeah.
Which is massive. Thank you, Hassan. So, Essen, I would like to now move the conversation to other use cases because we've talked extensively about content creation specifically, but creative economy is much bigger than entertainment or just content creation, right? So if I were to discuss, and I believe Sehat Kahani is a big M-Health use case which came out of Pakistan, and Dr. Sara, I believe, was also one of the official delegates from Pakistan at World Economic Forum. If we talk about how mobile phone is being used to make health accessible for people of Pakistan, especially areas where these services are not available, and even actually different use cases, for instance, during COVID, even when my own parents had COVID, they used an M-Health app by the name of Medic or MedIQ, which they were using to consult with the doctor because they could not really go to the doctor, nobody could visit them. But what are the different health use cases that Telenor has explored over the period of time to make these solutions accessible?
Yeah. So yes, you're right. Health is a pretty natural use case when it comes to telecom. Reason behind that is that the benefit of digital connectivity and digitalization is that it can overcome infrastructural gaps. Anything that can be digitized, any kind of communication that can be digitized, can be served at a very low cost, or it can overcome the geographical proximity challenges that can exist. For example, you've got far-flung areas, or even in the rural areas, you don't have access to better quality doctors. The best quality doctors are always going to be in the cities, not in the smaller cities. So from that point of view, how do you get better, I would say not urgent, but required healthcare service, to those areas. And digitalization is a natural solution to that, and telco operators are in a position to actually facilitate this because of the fact that telecom services are kind of distributed relatively evenly across the population, regardless of too much deviations because of financial status. So, a poor person is going to have most likely a mobile phone service, with him or her. Or a person in the rural areas is also likely to have them. There will be some exceptions, but for the most part, it is evenly distributed across the population. So everybody has access to a mobile phone, pretty much. A large part of the population has access to mobile data as well. How can we use that to our advantage in terms of serving good healthcare use cases? And I think we have to understand that what value that a telecom operator can also add in this. Because telco operators are not, healthcare providers themselves. So it all comes down to collaboration and how we can collaborate on this. See, the bigger, use case or where the value addition can happen is that in Pakistan, a lot of people are consuming content, for example, but not paying for it. The challenge is on the payment front. But the telco operators, to some extent, have solved that because all of our consumers are in some form paying for our services, whether they're paying through our digital distribution network or through our physical distribution network, but they're used to a certain pattern of paying for the services. Can we somehow collaborate between telco operators and between mobile health providers to create solutions where we can use our distribution network and use our financial payment method, whether we're doing through third parties or through our own retail network, to sell those services. And I think that is where the real value can be created, and that is where we at Telenor have been exploring it. So we did collaborate with Sehat Kahani, and we have been collaborating with certain other healthcare providers as well. And we have our own service as well. It's called Healthline. Again, it's kind of white label because we're not the ones who are providing the service. It's our service, but we've got different vendors at the back end who are providing those services. But then we have to be very clear of what value we bring to the table. For us, the value is around distribution, around awareness, and around the payment solution. So what we are doing is with healthcare, for example, what we've done is that we've started clubbing it as part of some of our data bundles and as part of our monthly packs. So our low-end monthly packs, which are in the vicinity of 600-700 rupees a month, have got an online doctor consultation service clubbed with it. So what a user can do is buying the data easy card, he or she can dial through on a particular number and do online consultation with a doctor. Now the idea is not to get into specialties right now. That would maybe be the next step, but for now the focus is to at least get basic healthcare services out there, create credibility, and then we can venture out into different parts of this. So that's really distribution and payments. I think that's where we as telco, as a Telenor, believe we can really add the value. And I think there are some challenges to be faced as well. The main challenge is finding credible partners. There are partners out there, but then they are generally call center operators who've got a few doctors sitting there who are answering calls. But how do we ensure that the quality of the consultation is being maintained, that customers are satisfied, So those are still things we're trying to crack. And I think those are the challenges. If you want to scale this service in the future, those are the areas that will have to be cracked. But this is a sector ripe for scale at the moment.
Right, and I believe since everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, whether it's entertainment, whether it's health, it's education, it's gaming, the accessibility part is what makes these smartphones an enabler for the creative economy and the economy in general as well. Ali, if I could request you to please shed some light on what Jazz is doing in specific to, since SN has covered the health bit of it, in terms of edtech. So to make education more accessible to the rural population, which is a huge percentage of our general population, what steps is Jazz taking?
Okay, so I'll get into that, but just while SN was talking about it, in terms of bite-sized offerings. So it was an interesting webinar that Ipsos arranged with representatives from multiple countries. This is a couple of days ago. They were talking about the outlook of 2024. The interesting commonality was that most countries, whether the person from Canada started off, then US, and then Asian countries, and then some African, the theme was common, right? 2023 has been a tough year for everyone, massive inflation, their economies, and so on and so forth. However, let's just say the outlook or in terms of how will this solve the problems was very different. And the commonality in some of the markets where the pocket size is small, and I'd put Pakistan in that category as well, is that there was a greater move of moving towards bite-size offering. The product remains the same. So Netflix, as Hassan points out, is doing wonderfully well in the US market, massive uptake. People go out there and buy, and they have no problem paying for the month. Same is the case for health services, insurance services. They would go out there and pay for the whole year, right? However, in our country, when people look at the entire, and that's the reason we are predominantly a prepaid market as well, right? So single expense out of pocket, which is large in size, at times does not work out for a lot of the population. So I believe whether it is health services, whether it is insurance, whether it is gaming or entertainment, the key, and that's where mobile operators come into play, because where they may not be necessarily linked industries to ours, the dependency on telcos becomes larger because we have the ability in a prepaid setup to do the bite-size charging, right? So that's an interesting one, and we see that in the outlook, like most other countries in a similar economic zone as ours, we would see the relevance of the telecom industry and their enablement of digital services. When I come to EdTech, I think again, just like the medical services, where mHealth, there are a lot of similarities to that. Access to the institute, the cost required for brick and mortar setups, making sure, and we've kind of dealt with ghost schools for such a long time. There is absolutely no way of keeping tab of it. The real, or rather the more efficient and effective way of making sure we cover the entire span of across Pakistan and make sure everyone has access to quality education, right? It has to be EdTech. It's a no-brainer. And I'll give you an example. We have this service by the name of Padho, right? It has about slightly over 2 million subscribers at this point in time. And that platform has evolved over the years, where it started off just some of these international classes for these international courses, like TOEFL back then, and then IELTS and some of the others. And then we got partners and got an opportunity it became an outreach program as well, just to make sure that you start offering elementary, primary education in far-flung areas. So the opportunity is massive. Again, it has to be harnessed. And you know what? The theme for the entire day today is about ecosystem. When you look at handsets, when you look at any other industry that you've spoken about. So I believe EdTech is also about creating that ecosystem. I think that is the missing link. We as telecom operators are the perfect conduit to make sure it gets out there. Yes, we would need full enablement through devices, and also and then we get the curriculum. It has to be a central body doing the curriculum which is relevant to Pakistan, right? So I think it has to come together. We've seen certain players like Google kind of have their smart school program running in certain countries.
Yes.
So we can use some of an inspiration from the way they've kind of evolved it, because trying to recreate something which is just ours. So the opportunity is immense there.
And I believe another thing that the creative economy has done is completely change the definition of education itself as well over a period of time. Like even entertainment is education, educating people in so many ways, whether it's about culture or anything else. So talking about that and bringing our session to conclusion, I would like to start the next question, the last question with you, Hassan. What trends do you foresee this creative economy trend sort of emerging into in the future? And how can the regulators within this room or in Pakistan support that brighter future, or something that we want to achieve over a period of time in terms of creative economy, if we want to be a part of this trend, global trend?
Okay, my wish list from the regulators, and if there are any in this room, is endless, right? So I will not go on that tangent. But I've already briefly touched on this before. Parity for all is what we need, right? Parity for all OTTs, all legislations cut across these OTTs, that's what's required. Now, in terms of other stakeholders other than regulators, there are media houses involved, there are content creators, telcos, and different other stakeholders that have ample play within the OTT space. But there's one player that we would really like help from, and two of those players are sitting right next to me, Ehsan and Ali both. Advertisers need to realize what digital viewerships is bringing on the table. Is it at par with the TV viewership? Is it better? And then pay accordingly. I'll give you an example of a Pakistan-Sri Lanka match, which was a qualifying match for Pakistan for Asia Cup back in September 2023. According to Kantar, not me, according to Kantar, 4 million people watched this match, or 4 million different TV devices had this match on, or were broadcasting it live. At the same time, 6.5 million people saw this match on Tamasha. So you see that the reach is already different for this particular match. This was a qualifier and a very tense match. Pakistan needed to win it. Sadly, we lost. But having said that, the rate per minute which the advertiser pays was double of that TV channel of what I was charging for Tamasha, right? So if the reach is higher, then why is the rate per minute still not there? I need not answers from Ehsan and Ali, they're both ex-colleague and a colleague. So, so yeah, but this is something that the advertisers need to now believe in. 30 million people, unique people, watched ICC World Cup on handheld devices. Be it Tamasha, be it Daraz, be it Maiko, that's separate. But the point is that the digital viewership is increasing, and I could ask tons of things from the government, but I also need to ask people who are paying so that the business model, transforms accordingly.
Thank you, Hassan. So I believe, Ali, what Hassan is saying is that the 50-50 split between traditional and digital marketing budget is not enough. Maybe an 80-20 needs to be considered in their favor. So noted. Thank you.
Can I add a wish list here?
Please, please.
My wish list is that the term regulator is replaced by facilitator. that will really help, because again, as a telecom operator, we are a conduit to many things from outreach. And then the responsibility for us just does not rest with the telecom industry. It goes way to any other ministry for that matter, whether it is education when we talk about edtech, or the health ministry when we talk about providing medicine. So it is best to use the ideal to use the telecom operators as the last arm, the last mile to reach the end beneficiary or customer. in Pakistan.
Right, thank you, Ali. Essen.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting ideas have come up. In terms of, you mentioned what the future will look like, how the evolution will happen. I think we are looking at a movement of a lot of services towards digitalization. Hassan is talking about in the future you'll have a lot more people watching the cricket matches online. And there's going to be a lot of boom in the entire e-commerce ecosystem. Obviously, there are certain bottlenecks which are still stopping it, and if they are ironed out, they can actually expedite it a lot. So on the one hand, you've got, we need more investment in the quality of telecom services in Pakistan. We have one of the most affordable data prices in the world. That's a good thing. However, we don't have the best services either. While we are affordable, we have a below average product. If you look at aggregate an average for the data experiences that we have, and the reason is that there's not enough profitability in the sector. And in order to improve, I will not go into the regulatory framework as such right now because there's a lot of debate that happens around it. But I think there are certain things which are stopping us from being efficient as well. We need better infrastructure sharing. The only way profitability will grow is, one way is to increase prices, the other is to reduce costs. In order to increase costs, our biggest costs are on the network. They're on the spectrum, they're on the managing of the network, without, talking too much about spectrum, but at least the network and the spectrum sharing is a very important area. We've got 4 operators. Right now, we're only doing tower sharing. But what about active network sharing and active spectrum sharing? There's so much inefficient. So we are trying as operators, trying to be very efficient in our internal cost structures. But our biggest cost structure is kind of being, we've been prevented from being efficient over there because of regulatory roadblocks. So active, infrastructure sharing, spectrum sharing can actually create a lot of efficiencies, reduce the cost structures, and in turn make it viable for the operators to do more investment to improve the quality of the experience that the users are going to get. And that will be one of the catalysts for the growth of the digital economy. The other one is, what we are banking on, I think, is the digital banks. So once you have more digital banks coming in, and then, the penetration of the payment system increasing, which we are expecting will happen in the next few years, then that will be the other catalyst which is going to drive the digital economy. Because the payment is still one of the biggest challenges when it comes to the further growth of this sector. So I'm hoping that the addressing of these 2 areas is going to drive this our fantastic future much faster. Yeah.
Thank you, Essen. So to conclude, I believe we all agree that this is a critical space. It's growing. There's a lot of opportunity for not just the telecom operators or the digital operators or the content creators, but also for the country's economy and the users of the mobile phones in the growth of this creative economy. And enablers of this growth will be more efficient use of network and obviously an increase in ARPU. So if we are to support this particular space, our regulators will have to become facilitators, as Ali rightly said. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and with this we conclude the panel.
Thank you.